The Bikeriders, directed by Jeff Nichols, stars Austin Butler, Tom Hardy, and Jodie Comer. After a chance encounter at a local bar, strong-willed Kathy is inextricably drawn to Benny, the newest member of the Midwestern motorcycle group, the Vandals, led by the enigmatic Johnny. Much like the country around it, the club begins to evolve, transforming from a gathering place for local outsiders into a dangerous underworld of violence, forcing Benny to choose between Kathy and his loyalty to the club. I've been waiting to see this film basically since last year. For those of you that aren't aware, this film was supposed to release I think around November of 2023, or maybe even sooner than that, but because of the writer's strike that was going on, they severely pushed this back to summer 2024, which we are finally in. They clearly demanded this film be watched on the big screen, and after watching it myself, I completely understand why, and I absolutely respect them for waiting this long to release it officially to the public, because this is a movie that deserves to be seen on the big screen. Firstly, I want to talk about the performances in this, especially starting with Jodie Comer right out the bat. I thought she was incredible in this. When she first appears on screen, admittedly her accent was a bit jarring. She's doing the Midwestern Fargo type voice, but after a short while you get used to it, and I don't think it's overly exaggerated to a very cartoonish degree. As the film goes on, it just feels natural in the world they create. Apart from that, I thought she did a great job in this role. Her character really stands her own ground, and for the majority of the film doesn't take shit from people. When she wants something, she makes the effort to get it. She just has this commanding presence about her, which was really cool to see. There's a moment where her character and Austin Butler's character that she's married to in the film have a fight, and she manages to grip you into this part. I was fully engaged the whole time. I don't know if this film is too early to be considered for nominations, but I hope she gets one for this role. Tom Hardy is pretty great here too. His character, and mainly his voice, is totally inspired by Marlon Brando. Obviously, more so Brando's character in the movie The Wild One. I can see this accent probably getting clowned on by people because hearing it at times, the way he will pronounce certain words, it does feel a little silly, but it's not all the time. Character is really interesting too. I love seeing his transition into making the club and how it came from a genuine place of love, and as things go on and it starts to change and he does more morally questionable things, he's still able to convey this sympathetic side of him, and you always understand where he's coming from. He's a man that commands respect from his friends in the club without being overly threatening. He has that aura to him, but he's not some terrifying guy either. He has this side to him that's full of passion, and you can tell he cares about the people in his life. Along with that, it's a really interesting thing to see. Austin Butler was pretty good here too. If Dune 2 didn't already solidify his status as movie star, I think this film definitely does. His introduction scene is one of those you see in people's career where you can tell it's just what made them. I do love as well that he's embracing his weird side again in this. You can tell that Benny isn't exactly a stable guy. He's always getting into fights, mercifully beating people until he's either stopped or gets bested by the other person, and he sells it really well here. Just as well as Tom Hardy's character, you can tell he's very dedicated to the club, and when things start getting more heavy, he's good at conveying this internal struggle that he can't leave, as much as Kathy, Jodie Comer's character, is pleading with him to do so. Some people I really like here, with some minor roles too. Michael Shannon, who I've come to realize has basically been in every Jeff Nichols movie, has a couple of really good scenes, because whenever he just does line readings, he puts so much into his performance, no matter how small it is. He's given this monologue that in context for his character is pretty sad, and he sells it really well. Norman Reedus shows up halfway through the movie in this really wild costume, and for the brief moments he has on screen, I thought he was just a joy to watch. You can tell he's having so much fun in this role. I actually thought Mike Faist was good here too. Again, he has a very minor role and doesn't do much. He's essentially playing the role of the author of the book the film's based on. For the brief moments he has this charisma about him and is always very charming whenever he's on screen. I really love the structure of the story, how it's basically what I think the book is like, told mainly from Jodie Comer's character's perspective, and occasionally we'll have other accounts from people in the club. A lot of people are comparing the film to Goodfellas, and admittedly, yeah, from the way its narration is used, from the essential rise and fall arc of the club, there are a lot of elements that are taken from Goodfellas, which probably adds to why I like this film so much. It was just fun going back and forth from the interview to seeing the evolution of the club. I love how this is also essentially a film where the characters don't really do anything. Like, yeah, they're going places, they go to meetings, they get in fights, but it's essentially just a slice of life showing all these bikers hang out with each other, and for the majority of the film, it does make for a chill watch. The violence is done pretty well, and its use sparingly. It's not overly gory, but when they show it, it always feels pretty brutal and is shot well, where you can always have a good understanding of what's going on. The sound design in this movie is also really impressive too. All of the way the motorcycles sound in these big speakers in a theater is just really thrilling to listen to. So I just want to give massive props to the sound design for making the motorbikes have so much power through their sound. I think when you're making a movie like this, it's really important to try and get the sound of something like that correct, because you know there'll be some people out there that will probably complain if the sound of them doesn't match to how they are in real life. So hearing them in this movie was just always a thrill to see, especially when we would get groups of the motorcycle club racing and cruising with each other. It would always be a very full sound to listen to. It was always really entertaining and pleasing on the ears. Soundtrack in this film is pretty fantastic as well. It perfectly encapsulates the vibe and the time period of the film. They did such a good job at picking all the songs for it. I genuinely found myself grooving along to some of the tracks at different points in the film. The cinematography is really well done here too. It's shot really well, and there's many moments where there's some great use of lighting too, which is always appreciated to see. Overall, I had such a great time watching this film. It had so many things I loved. The story is done really well in a structure, while done before, still feels unique in its own way. All the characters are really interesting. You always understand where they're coming from, what their motives are, and how sympathetic most of them can be. It's just full of vibes, and it's a great hangout movie. I'm giving the Bikeriders 5 stars. It features some really incredible performances, especially from Jodie Comer, and it's such a well shot, well directed, well written hangout movie that absolutely deserves to be watched on the big screen.